All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Keep 'Em Healthy podcast. Today's guest is a force of nature, in my opinion. She's a boy mom of two, a firefighter wife, a vegetarian, an ultra endurance athlete, and a keynote speaker. And with a master's of sports science from the United States Sports Academy and over 60 credits beyond her master's in psychology of behavior change. So when she isn't teaching as professor at Manhattanville University or conquering her doctoral program in educational leadership, she's on the front lines of advocating for classroom movement mandates and to change the way our children learn. She is the founder of Never Stop Moving 365. And so I have her on here today to help us unlock a growth mindset and just to hear her passion and her expertise and to see what she can teach us. So everyone, please welcome Christina Collins.
Thank you so much, Jamie. I'm so excited to be here, and I hope all of you listeners are having a fantastic day already so far.
Thank you. It's so funny because I love volleyball. I coach volleyball for my daughter. I grew up playing volleyball. I never made it to the collegiate level, but you did. But so like you, from everything that I read about you, you spent your life basically in motion. So like you did the collegiate volleyball, you do ultra marathons. So what was this aha moment that led you for this personal passion and turning it into that like your company, Never Stop Moving 365?
Yeah, so it actually started with volleyball. So I played volleyball growing up, and my volleyball coach was also my phys ed teacher. He had such a positive impact on me growing up. We're still friends today, and I wanted to be that for children. So I studied to become a phys ed teacher. I played volleyball in college, like you said, to earn those degrees. And then I get this job, and I'm like, wait, why don't I feel as fulfilled as I thought I would? Well, because of all the things going on in the school today. And so I realized that I was so close with him because he trained me outside of school. And so I started kids personal training. Parents would say to me, my child loves your phys ed class, but I can't get them to do any team sports. Can you work with them one-on-one outside on, core strength, upper body strength? What kid today doesn't need more of that? Coordination, midline, right? All of it. And I maxed out my time for trade. Hired all my phys ed friends. They max out their time for trade. I'm like, okay, really have something here. And sure enough, fast forward, 7 years built on nap schedules and now between bus drop off and pickup. And we are a franchise, and we are the only franchise brand that is kids personal training.
Okay, so it's interesting because you're talking about training outside of school, but I also feel like a part of your mission that I keep learning about from you is physical literacy and then classroom integration. So with the Never Stop Moving 365, are you making any headway to that classroom integration? Like what's going on there?
Yeah, so we are. I mean, currently there's only one state in the United States, Colorado, that has a classroom movement mandate, which would be obviously the gold standard STAR model, right? We know that children need an hour of physical activity a day, and we know that they're not getting it. Okay, children spend the majority of their daylight waking hours in school. And so schools are the natural solution for where we need to be providing movement opportunities. They're going to phys ed less and less. Recess time is shrinking. Academics is growing. So we need to have that bridge, as you said, and have movement be occurring in the classroom. Many children today, as soon as school's over, they're on a device and they're sedentary and they're not outside in nature riding bikes until the streetlights came on like I did growing up. Or we're seeing less and less neighborhood, type of pickup games in youth sports.
Absolutely. I 100% have seen that. I've lived in different neighborhoods and different places. And there was one neighborhood in particular where it was just commonplace that after school, kids just flooded outside and everyone just played and did the pickup sports games and all of that. And that is the rare diamond. That is the gold standard. And it is so rare because I've lived in different places and the opportunity is there in all these different neighborhoods. When it's part of the culture, and nobody thinks twice about it. But when it's not, it is so difficult to get going. So I have multiple children and they're young and I tell them go on your bikes, go knock on doors, go out, go do that. And we'll do that, but it's hard to see the reciprocation, which I find is very interesting. However, I do feel all parents that I talk to believe that these kids should be going and playing and you shouldn't be inside on the devices all the time. But yet there's this disconnect where I don't know why, but parents maybe have a hard time saying no or yeah. I don't know what the deal is, but what do you think about that kind of stuff? What do you think is missing for that parental role at least?
Yeah, I do get exactly what you're saying. There seems to be a gap currently between theory and practice, right?
Yes,
Parents know something in theory, but then in practice, I will say that as a parent myself, I definitely feel as though I successfully cultivated that in my neighborhood. It started at first with parent driven groups. So I would say, preschool PE, come to my house and I would do, all different kinds of phys ed, intro to sports. And now that they're older, it's grown. Just most recently, we did a flashlight egg hunt at night, the night before Easter, and we put on a kids turkey trot. And, like you said, I send my kids riding on their bike after school. They knock on people's doors, but it is interesting how many children they do come back and say, so and so's mom said they're not allowed to play outside. So and so's mom said they're not allowed to play outside. So there's that gap, right? Between theory, parents want their kids outside is unstructured, which is wonderful play.
Mm,
So yeah, it's there. It's present for sure.
interesting. So, I wanted to ask you, what is the goal ultimately? So when you are putting this into place with schools, or like you have these franchise, what is the ultimate goal? Are you trying to insert yourself into schools? Are you trying to insert yourself in communities? Like, what's the ultimate goal for this Never Stop Moving 365?
Yeah, so we build confidence in children through fitness and sport, right? When I
Okay.
look back at my days playing volleyball, I don't even like 12 women today to get them together to play volleyball, right? But I have the grit, I have learning from mistakes, trying new things, the confidence, that entire toolkit that I got from playing volleyball my whole life and from my coach training me, that is how I grew this, bootstrapped to a franchise, right?
Right.
And so I want children to have that character development. And that's what kids' personal training brings them. So yes, a franchisee opens, there's multiple revenue streams from day one, meaning it's B2C, business direct to client. That could look like bike lessons, swim lessons, birthday parties. But you're correct. We do partner B2B. The business does partner with schools. With preschools, bring us in and we're their phys ed teacher. We do before school, after school, lunchtime recess enrichment for schools, churches, synagogues. We partner with them, rec departments. They bring us in. So the business opportunity does offer multiple streams of income. We want to get 1 million children. We are on a mission to get 1 million children confident through fitness and sport. And having that toolkit, you don't need a scoreboard and stats and pressure to develop that. And so many children today, especially post pandemic, they don't have the social emotional to want to be in that team pack mindset with, again, the pressure, anxiety, stats, all of it. But you can get that one-on-one in the comfort and safety of your own playroom or backyard with a kid's personal trainer, right? With a youth movement specialist.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting because there is a lot of built up anxiety and pressure and whatnot about kids being embarrassed in front of peers if they can't throw a ball or if they can't run fast and do these things. And so there is that nice, it's like a little safety net of that you are in your own backyard. There's that comfort. It's just with that movement leader. And then they get to that confident place and then they try out for the team or they show up to the basketball courts or whatever the case may be, which is really cool. But I wanted to ask you with this, like, what is the Never Stop Moving 365 like North Star? Like, I know it's confidence, but like, how are we doing that? Or is confidence your North Star? Maybe I shouldn't have answered that. What is your North Star?
Yeah, it's having children develop confidence in themselves that they can do hard things. And sports and fitness is what taught me that. And I believe sports and fitness is one vehicle for children to learn that about themselves, that they can do hard things and everything that they need is inside. And those are the two big things that we are instilling in every single session with children.
Are you using like a certain language or do you have certain like mottos or do you follow a scaffolding of how you're doing this? Is there,
Correct.
what's that process? Yeah.
Yep, it definitely a big thing for all the parents listening. Celebrate failure. If you walk away with one thing from today, get your children comfortable with failure. So in sessions, it could be as simple as a child underhand tossing towards a target and they miss it. Celebrate it. Okay. What did you learn from that? You missed it. It's great. What did you learn? It went too far. I threw it too hard. Okay, great. We learned. Now what do we do? Throw it softer. Now it's too soft. Okay, great. You failed. What did we learn? Okay. In the middle, that's how you get right. Failure is not the destination. So many children shut down as soon as there's failure. Okay. Or children today shut down just even before failure, just when things are getting tough, when things are getting challenging, when they're not immediately successful, when they're not immediately winning or number one. And they get discouraged and they don't have the confidence in themselves. But we can rewrite that narrative by training them that failure is great. It's one step closer. I'd be concerned if you weren't failing, right? And so it's rewriting that narrative and instilling that language in them You could look across a myriad of examples, but right, Sarah Blakely, I'm sure many of your listeners know that story. Her parents, in her development of Spanx, they came to the dinner table every night and they talked about what their father would ask, what's one thing, how did you fail today? And just normalizing failure. I tell my children all the time, I fail in business all the time. I make mistakes because sometimes, even as adults, I'm sure we're guilty. We're always just seeing the Instagram perfect and positivity. And, it takes a lot of no's and a lot of wrongs and a lot of mistakes and unsexy things to get to those positive highlights that you do see on the social media channels.
Right. And it's funny that you're saying this because I was just listening to something about one of these famous singers, and they said about her, they're like, how do you feel being an overnight success? She's like, well, let's define overnight success. She said, because I've been doing this for 14 years. And she's like, and it has been hard work and it has been ups and downs and people liking me, not liking me, people giving me opportunities and then taking them away and putting she goes, so she's like, let's define overnight. She's like, I'm not an overnight success. This is long term. So here's my next question for you. How does your company help these kids bridge that gap from being like this temporary fitness goal to making this like a lifestyle movement?
It's all about the joy. Right?
Okay.
It's not skill and drill with us. It's very gamified. It could be a circuit. They don't realize, they're running this way and then they're kicking a soccer ball and then they're doing a push-up and then they're throwing a frisbee and then they're doing a squat. It's not do 10 burpees because I said do 10 burpees, right? It's not authority driven.
Mm-hmm.
It's very gamified. It's very fun. Children enjoy it. And again, for parents to walk away with a golden nugget, movement is regulating. So if you see a child that is dysregulated, movement is a regulation tool. And that's what we're also trying to emphasize in the classroom. Many children say in the classroom, their brains are not online available to learn. They might be looking in the direction of the teacher, but they're not in a place where there is any kind of recall or recognition. They can't recite what they were just taught, even if they're compliant, looking at the direction of the PowerPoint, let's say. But movement is regulating and it will turn that brain online. So even just doing, 10 cross curls, which is like elbow to opposite knee 10 times, it will fire what they need in their vestibular system, proprioception, all of it, turn their brain online, and then they will be able to absorb the information and actually remember it, recall it, synthesize it, analyze it, right? Continue moving up Bloom's taxonomy.
Right. And I think that's a connection that a lot of people, actually educational systems, forget, how the cross section of physical movement and academic success, when you're saying you're turning on these things in the brain. I had a child who I'm a biology professor, so I have a lot of classroom experience. I have a child that they would say they feel like they're in they're in almost like a prison when they're in the room for an extended period of time. They just feel like they're being locked in. And so they would just sit and do squats at their desk because it just gave them that release of not feeling like suffocated and being locked in a spot where it doesn't feel safe for them. They just need some movement. And it's those little things that create night and day differences that, maybe traditional programs like years ago would have been like, no, you sit in your seat, and there is some discipline to that. I get that. But then it's small changes like elbow to knee or doing a little squat at your desk, not causing disruption, but giving them that tool so that they can actually absorb and have success in their academic work.
Absolutely. You don't have to raise your hand because you know the answer. Why can't you balance on one foot when you know the answer? Again, get that necessary input to their bodies and they will be able to perform academically. Their focus will improve, right? What do we hear about attention spans, about fidgeting and all different kinds of behaviors, and movement is regulating. It is a solution for that.
Now, do you guys have an opinion on movement outside versus inside? Do you try to push one way or the other, or what is your philosophy on that?
Yeah, we very much embody there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear.
Yeah,
We do believe in the benefits. And I won't bore you with research just because I'm in the doctorate, but all about the research of being outside in nature, in the sun, and all of it is, even just wind resistance. Again, that's regulating to children. There's just a lot versus always being, in fluorescent lights and temperature controlled environments.
Right. It's super important. And for resilience and again, even just managing that nervous system, hearing the birds chirping is like, it's therapeutic for people, hearing water rushing if you're by a water source, even if it's like a little pond next door. Those things, you don't realize how impactful they are. And the tools that we have literally that are free and at our disposal. And just by going outside, I just think that this is such a great idea. what would you say is your like 5-year plan here with what's going on with the Never Stop Moving 365? Like, where are we going with this?
Yes, so we eventually will be nationally known and locally grown, but right now we're rippling out like rings on the tree. So our corporate location is based out of New York in Westchester, New York, and we have awarded a handful of exclusive franchise, we call them active zones. So we're up and running in Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, our closest being Lancaster, Pennsylvania, like Lidditz, Pennsylvania area. And we hope to continue as we find qualified partners who want to open a kids personal training business in their community, because we created a business in a box, and then we partner with someone who wants to be that youth movement mayor, we call it, of their community, and then they can implement all the tools. We train them, of course, how, and we, link arm in arm in getting children moving in that community. So we will continue like rings on a tree to ripple out from our corporate until we are, getting 1 million children active. I mean, just the success stories alone, it could be as simple as a middle school mom calls us to tell us she's crying on the phone. And my first thing's like, oh my God, what happened? And, it's about how her child asked her to go for a walk after dinner at the track, because that was a goal that had been set with her and her kids personal training, her youth movement specialist, who came, and something that they were working on. And, that's not a kid going in their room, shutting their door and sitting one-on-one on a device, isolated. And so it's those kind of, wins that really make it, transformational.
Absolutely. I think once you can have the child understand the importance of how much it benefits them to move throughout the day and how they can use that as a tool to help themselves. Because listen, like, it's tough being a kid, especially with all the technology and things, like to manage all the input coming into your brain, right? And to then regulate it throughout the entire day. It's so great if they make that connection to be like, I'm feeling like I can't take in on any more information. I need to do something that's going to help regulate my body. And they know that it's a walk, going outside and going for a walk, or doing a stretching movement, or whatever the case may be. Like, that is a game changer.
Something that, is critical too is you don't have to do soccer for 2 hours. You don't just have
Right.
to do basketball for 45 minutes. That might not actually be regulating to a child. So that's the other part of it. When Never Stop Moving 365, what our sessions are, it's very different. And so children can have a lot, again, like you said, immediately it removes the fear of peer performance, which is the number one thing. Even as a phys ed teacher formerly for over 13 years, the kids come to class after third grade, they have no desire to perform in front of their friends. The ones, the athletic elite, maybe the top 10%, fine. The majority, that middle 70%, no desire to perform in front of their peers. So removing that, but exposure to a lot of different fun movement concepts oftentimes is what then allows children to actually look forward to movement. Like you said, for them to be able to recognize, okay, I'm overstimulated, I'm stressed, my stomach hurts, my palms are sweating, my heart's racing, they're having anxious feelings. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to listen to that burbling creek water, free sound on YouTube, or the birds chirping, free YouTube, kind of implementing that more holistic, healthy lifestyle versus being on a team sport where a coach is preparing you for a specialized role on that team and you're going to play,
Right. And like you said, every kid's different. So can I ask you, what has been the most successful, I would say, method or game, or what is something that has surprised you that seems to be a consistently successful activity or method that you've added into the Never Stop Moving 365?
You know what it is? It's two things.
Okay.
One, it is student choice.
Okay.
Believe it or not, children want to pick. They want to have say, and they vote with their feet. And so if we say, it goes back to when you're parenting a toddler, and like you could have 3, banana coins or 2 slices of apple because you wanted them to have both, but you didn't care which one they had, right? Both were beneficial.
Mhm.
It's the same thing with the movement buffet. They feel so much more empowered when they chose instead of being told, instead of being dictated to or directed, right? That self-led movement journey, that's why it sticks long after a jersey on their back, or, again, phys ed is only K to 12. What are they doing in college when there's a student center like a fitness center? Are they comfortable and confident performing there. And the other thing is just the positive energy that our coaches bring that, is not also always the case necessarily if it's like someone's volunteer dad who maybe isn't a youth movement specialist, not sure how to maybe build the confidence of a child despite their best volunteer efforts.
Right, absolutely. And I think it's important to note, and I just did an episode on coaches and how like impactful they can be. And you don't realize
So impactful.
even when you're a volunteer for like a little league, coach, and how impactful that is. And, just even your story about your volleyball coach or your phys ed teacher and volleyball coach, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
on the same.
Mm-hmm.
Literally the man who came on, he was like, my biggest goal is that I stay in relationship with these kids years after, because we've established this like safety and they feel confident that they can share things with me and all that kind of stuff, or they want to share good news with me and things like that. And that's how impactful that is. And it's so simple. It's just being encouraging, it's showing up. And again, acknowledging the process over the outcome, like not focusing on what the outcome is, but like saying, okay, what's the next step? What did we learn? How can we do better? What did we do well? And having those conversations and making it more than just, did you score? Did you win? Did you get the gold medal type situation?
Yeah. A common phrase. I love how hard you tried. I love how focused you were. Parents listening, it transfers academically. As soon as they get in the car, don't ask them what the test score was, right? You saw the process. You saw them prepare the best that they can. That process is what carried over to me building this business from the ground up, and to me having two young kids and getting this doctorate at the same time while being a professor like yourself, all of those things. It's the process. If I just went on outcome, I would have given up a long time ago.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. It is. It's even just taking the time as parents. I think we should even communicate and talk about our failures and the ups and downs that we have in the day, and being like, wow, like I was so embarrassed today. You'll never believe what happened. And you know what I learned? I learned that I need to leave 5 minutes early, because that really shouldn't happen every single time. And it's like, I'm so glad I learned that today, and talking in those ways so that you are instilling that conversation out loud to them, but then they're going to learn how to use that language and that conversation to themselves. I think it's really important.
Absolutely. And the other thing that's really important, and you said it yourself, it literally doesn't even matter if it's just a little league volunteer, which, by the way, being as a mom, I do see the difference in my sons and how they respond to a certain season of a certain sport based on the coach's attitude, literally from as soon as they get out of their car,
Yep.
and so absolutely. But the most important thing for both parents and coaches is that our outside voice becomes their inside voice. So I'm just going to say it one more time. Our outside voice becomes their inside voice. So we are very much in control of the narrative and the way that they learn to talk to themselves. It just comes down to what we are saying to them. They internalize every single thing. Even my 5-year-old will like spit something back that I said, 3 months ago. And I'm like, wow, you are listening. Okay.
Right. You are listening. I know, isn't it? But you're so right. And I think that just reminding ourselves as we are adults and parents and we're involved with other parenting, coaching, being a teacher, whatever the case may be, is that our presence really does matter. Just even thinking about maybe listeners, if you're out there being like, this program sounds amazing, and maybe you're thinking about bringing it to Bucks County because we need somebody in Bucks County. Let's talk about that, Christina.
Yeah, we have over 50 families waiting for services for kids' personal training in Bucks County, but we need a business owner. We need a leader. So if you are inclined, if you feel called to be a youth movement mayor, please reach out. You can email me, Christina@neverstopmoving365.com, or head over to our Instagram, neverstopmoving.365. But this program is wanted in so many places. We are exclusively awarding zones, meaning I've said no to hundreds of who want to open it. So, the bar is very high, but we are very excited to hear from you.
Well, awesome. And thank you so much for sharing all this information, Christina. And I just wanted to ask you, my final question here for you is, what is the good news in everything that we just talked about today? Like, what is your final message for the listeners here, whether they're a parent, coach, teacher, like what's the good news here?
Yeah, I would say that you don't need to have, 2 hours to block off to do movement. Just 10 minutes, a bike ride, a walk, a fun balancing game that you saw on Instagram, even just if you have little kids using a sock, just a pair of socks, a sock ball, tossing and catching, balancing on, if you take a pillow off the couch and you just do a balancing on one foot, standing on, the couch pillow. I mean, just little ways to invite movement. It's very regulating. And that would be physically, and then verbally, just, constantly telling your children they're strong, I'm strong. We have our kids repeat it back to us in sessions. So I say I'm strong, they say I'm strong, I'm powerful, I can do hard things, I'm brave. I mean, as parents, we kind of sometimes, right? Because a lot of us almost want to be the lawnmower and mow out the obstacles. So I don't do that, but I do prepare them. I'm like, you're strong, you're brave. I try to hype them up before I go, knowing that they might incur or likely to incur failure. And that's okay, but having them believe in themselves, I would say, is the biggest takeaway from today.
I love that message. It's things that we have control over as parents. What we say, we have control over. That's something that we can intentionally do. So I love that message. Thank you, Christina, so much for coming on the show. And then just like a final wrap up, I know you mentioned your email earlier, but can you just give our listeners like where we can find you and what you got going on and all of that?
Yeah, our website has all the information you can imagine. www.neverstopmoving365.com, and our Instagram as well. You can find us on Facebook, Never Stop Moving 365. And I'm just so excited to connect with like-minded, driven moms. I built this during my children's nap schedule, literally. And now that I finally have a kindergartner and second grader, now it's between pickups, but it's very lifestyle aligned. You want to make a positive impact and sit where impact meets income. I'd love to talk to you.
I love it. Christina, I love your energy. I love what you're doing. I'm cheerleading you on. And I hope listeners that take away some of these nuggets and start implementing them in your homes. And if you're interested, contact Christina for more information for whatever that may look like for you. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Enjoy moving throughout this day. And thank you, Christina, so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.